All right, so you're probably getting that magic message from Zoom that the meeting is being recorded. So click that so you can participate. This is going to be a short but important meeting today, and I'm going to go ahead and get started, figuring more people will come on as we get moving. And I know a lot of folks are away, but that's why we're recording it. We'll get it up on the magic of YouTube so people can watch it at their own leisure. The fun and excitement of the EQIP meeting and really racking up my YouTube views, Jessica. So that's great. Anyway, so the exciting news is that performance year 3 enrollment has begun. It started on Monday, so it's like Christmas for those of us who are value-based care geeks, because we get to help more people get involved in value-based care. So it's the time to think about it. Today, we're going to kind of give an overview of the enrollment process, and I think Jessica's going to go through a little bit of a demo and explain how it works. So this is an important one, and for those of you who have not done this before, it's very helpful. And for those of you who have done this before, I am going to recommend that you kind of do not just go in and do the same thing you've always done. I think it's a really good opportunity, because we should have soon final year 1 numbers for you to look at your entity, look at what was successful, look what wasn't successful, and think about how can we regroup things, how can we do things differently to achieve success. And we have added a lot of bundles since year 1. So I think it's also really important for you to look and see what bundles might work for your physicians. One other bit of what I think is good news is last night the MedChi board voted to allow me to set up an EQIP entity for free. It will be open to anybody who wants to do it. In the first 2 years, we had some small practices who could not meet attribution. So we will take anybody who wants to be in, and we will hopefully then be able to group them together so they can meet attribution and participate. I know Jessica and I were very frustrated, particularly in year 1, because we lost some cardiologists and a few others who just couldn't meet attribution, but if they were an EQIP entity, they would have been able to participate, and we don't want to leave anyone behind. So that should fill that void, and we're not going to charge a fee or anything for participation. MedChi is going to cover the cost of setting up the entity. So that is my news, and having given that, I'm going to turn over the real content and the meat of the presentation over to Jessica and Will. Jessica, it's all yours.
Thank
I
you.
could just jump in right before you, Jessica. Jean, thank you for opening that EQIP entity. I know, this is a really unique program that relies on a partnership between state and private payers, and I think you've been a great partner and a great partner of value-based care, both in EQIP, and I know you helped, get MD-PCP up and running with your CTO. So we really appreciate that from the state side, that we have such strong partners. So thank you for doing that EQIP entity thingamajiggy. All right, Jessica.
Thanks, Will. That was great.
Okay, so as Jean mentioned, today we're really focusing on enrollment. What does that mean? It's open. So what exactly are you guys supposed to do? What are the requirements to get into PY3? So just a reminder, we're in this July to August enrollment period. It is a relatively small window. It's about 8 weeks in order to enroll. And the next time, if we miss this window, the next time to enroll isn't until next July for the 4th performance year. So this is really the time. We'd like to say that you can drop NPIs after this period, but you cannot add anyone. So if you are on the fence about someone adding an NPI, or let's say someone's joining later next calendar year, this is the time to get them in so that we can get everyone properly vetted by CMS. But entities can drop NPIs or tweak them slightly as we get into the fall period before contracting. But just want to note that. Okay, so just like for the last 2 years, the enrollment process is done entirely within the EQIP Entity Portal, or EAP, which is a module within CRISP Reporting Services, or CRS. Really, there's 2 different processes. We have brand new entities and existing entities that are enrolled for PY2. So for new entities, or if you're like splitting an entity, you know, to create one based off of a more like specialized focus or based off a location, but essentially you're creating a new entity, that process does have to be initiated by a lead care provider for that entity. That does not have to be a physician, and it can be any provider that is active within that entity. And essentially that provider is required to do a couple enrollment steps, and we'll review which steps those are. But once they get to that point, they can designate an administrative proxy who can basically finish that, finish the process and do most of the actual enrollment parts. But we do need that lead care provider to start the process. It cannot be started by an admin proxy. And essentially to start it, just email the EQIP inbox and we'll get you squared away to the right person. For existing PY2 entities, so all approved administrative proxies and of course your lead care providers as well already have access within EQIP to complete PY3 enrollment. Your information from PY2 is pre-populated. So essentially you have, you can go in and edit NPIs, edit your episode selection, things like that. But we do need to note that you are required to go in and at least click through every step of the workflow in order for us to confirm that you want to participate in PY3. So just not logging in and doing anything, like we are assuming that you're not participating in PY3. So again, you must log in, go through those steps. And again, we'll go through that in a little bit more detail. So to hone in on new entities again, so for brand new entities, there's essentially a two-step process to even get into the portal, get into enrollment. The first step is CRISP onboarding, and this is for practices that are completely new to CRISP and haven't really been onboarded with us at all. And there are some steps, some forms that are required. Our biggest one is the participation agreement, but you can see there's some other things such as the notice of privacy practices attestation, things about LabCorp and Quest data release if you use those, and a substance abuse disorder treatment form. Essentially, all those forms need to go in and we get your practice enrolled within CRISP. And then after we can get that practice on board within CRISP, we can then allow access to a lead care provider. Many practices are already in this process, so that step can be skipped and you can go straight into the lead care partner onboarding. But if you are new, it may take a couple days to finish this CRISP onboarding before we can jump into the EQIP enrollment. A good example of this is if you have a practice that has multiple locations, you don't need to do this full CRISP onboarding. Your practice has already been onboarded. You're just adding, let's say, an EQIP entity for a new location. We can jump right into the lead care partner onboarding. Again,
Jessica, Andy has a question. Can lead care partners, do they have to be participating in the entity, and can the lead partner be the same lead partner for multiple entities?
That's a good question. So yes and no. So the lead care partner must be participating in the list for the NPI list for that entity, and we do need one lead care partner for each entity. They can't be duplicative. And it's a little bit of how sort of the access and stuff works on the back end. Okay, and then for the lead care partner onboarding, when you get access and you are credentialed within CRISP, honestly, I think one of the hardest parts and the things people struggle with is you are required to create a login and password, another one for CRISP, and we do have a two-factor authentication. Sometimes that's a little bit frustrating to get into, but hopefully once you get the hang of it, it'll be seamless. But we do provide some training resources on that two-factor auth, and of course, we're also available if there are some issues with getting in. Once you're in, again, there's minimal lift for that lead care partner, but there is some. So there is some contact information, putting in your enrollment type, which is essentially saying, are you enrolling as an individual or are you enrolling in a group, multiple care partners, their name, and then the biggest part is designating that administrative proxy contact so that that person, your designated person, can go in and finish the process. So that's sort of an overview, and we're going to walk through each screen and kind of show you what it looks like. So I am going to pause and share the live or the demo environment for a second. Okay. So this is essentially what it looks like when you first go into CRISP reporting services. Based off of your access, you may have more or less reports here, but you want to go into this Medicare population tab and then click the EQIP Enrollment Portal, and that should pop right up. So if you are an existing administrative proxy to multiple entities, you will have a drop down available for you to pick and select, which entity that you are going to be editing or enrolling. Essentially, this is the homepage where everything sort of lands that you start into. Just to orient you, on the left, you have sort of our links and information. It'll take you to the CRISP website, the HSCRC website, the user guide for this, and then this EQIP help will essentially give you our email if you have any specific questions. This middle section sort of breaks down the different steps within the program. So for this purpose and this time period, we're obviously focusing in this enrollment section. The program data is mostly for current performance years that are already active. So if you're a new PY3 entity, you probably won't have some of this available. It won't be available until the start of next year. And then on the right-hand side here, you will see an enrollment tracker. So honestly, the biggest thing is this September 1st deadline. So 49 days from now is when enrollment closes. So just keep that in mind as you are going through things here. And then finally up here, obviously, we are focusing on PY3 enrollment here, but again, if you're an existing entity and you're looking at you want to look at different stuff from the year prior, you can use this drop-down list to again select the performance year that you're interested in. Okay, so the time being, we're in PY3 and we're going to use this test entity. I see a couple questions, so I just want to. Oh, no, Will, you got it. Thanks. Okay, so we'll move on. So you will click this start enrollment process. That's the first step. And you will get to this program contact and enrollment type. So this is the main part that the lead care partner must complete. And essentially it's their own information. So your name, first name, last name, email, phone contact information. And this enrollment type is also a very important part because it can change for the next steps in the workflow for enrollment. So I think most of our groups are entering as multiple care partners, but you of course have the option to enter into this program as an individual. So you will select one of these from the dropdown. For the purpose of this demo, I'll use multiple care partner. We're going to save this, and then we're going to go next. This entity information, again, this is a step required for the lead care partner to do. And essentially what they need to do is enter in your EQIP entity name. That is the only requirement for this one. This is also the field that you can upload your MPIs, but we're going to go back because I want to focus on with the workflow of that lead care partner. So they enter in the EQIP entity name. They will continue on, and this administrative proxy is sort of the important part. So once they get to this point, you want to designate, yes, I want an administrative proxy. You can go in and add someone. So for example, I'll add myself. And I'll save this. Maybe. Okay, don't know why the save button isn't working here. But okay, I'm going to cancel right now. But essentially, when you save it, we will get a notification. We, being CRISP, will get a notification on the back end to provision that administrative proxy. If they are already provisioned as an admin proxy for another entity, their access is, oh, maybe it's loading now. Their access is pretty much granted almost immediately. But if they're, again, a brand new user to CRISP or things like that, we do have to go through some provisioning processes to make sure that they're all squared away to get into the system. So those three steps, that entity or your own personal information that's put in, the entity name, and designating this administrative proxy, that is the minimum requirement for your lead care partner to do. Once they've gotten to that point, if again they have someone else completing this process, that they can log out and again their requirements are done. Hopefully in a second I'll show you where an admin proxy can pick up from there. And just as a note, of course, there's no requirement to have an admin proxy. A lead care partner can complete all of this on their own if that's how they would like. Okay. So the lead care partner would enter this information in and save and continue later. Again, they can kind of log off and be done their portion of it. When a administrative proxy comes in, now that they've been granted access, they will of course be first sent to this main dashboard or this main homepage. And we're giving the program a little bit to think about right now. Okay, so they will go here and they will basically have their selected entity that they were granted as an admin proxy. They'll select it and again, press this start admin proxy or start enrollment process. This will be completed by their lead care partner so they can go next. And this is sort of the important part for your NPIs. So this is where you upload a Excel sheet. You can do it manually, but we're focused on the Excel sheet and then I can show how to do it manually of your NPIs that are going to be in this entity. So again, we have two different processes. For a brand new entity, you are going to likely use this upload new care partner list. For an entity that is already in performance year 2 and they're looking just to add some providers, you may want to look at this append to existing list. And again, the main difference is using this first button, you're going to overwrite everything that is in the system to begin with, versus this upload one is going to add your NPIs to your existing list. And then finally, there is a manual process if you want to say, again, you're an existing PY2 entity and you're saying, oh, this doc retired, let me go in and delete them. So for the time being, I'm going to do that so that we can kind of show you what it would look like. So if I'm a new entity, the first thing you want to do is download this submission template. And when you download this, you will get an Excel file for you to complete. And it essentially looks like this. You have to fill out your NPI, first name, last name, their email address, and their business mailing address, and select the specialty from the dropdown. Typically, if there are any errors associated with the upload, which it will tell you if you do have an error, it has to do with either the formatting in the NPI or if the specialty field does not match one of the ones in the dropdown. So we can help you troubleshoot that, but please keep in mind that's probably the most typical errors that we see. So I have already created one on the back end. So I will choose a file and upload my demo one. And you can see here, it's going to upload it and will tell you if the file upload is successfully or not. Again, those errors likely have to do with some type of formatting issues with it. So once it's uploaded, you'll be able to see your list of providers here. Again, you can tweak them manually, or you can say, oops, I just found out a new doc is joining our team. You can use this manual button over here to add new, to go in and enter in basically those field numbers that were, or those columns that were in the Excel sheet manually here. Again, probably a good option if you're just looking to do 1 or 2 tweaks, but for large submissions or large edits, we recommend using the Excel template to drive this process. So I'm going to save this and then click next. Again, this is your admin proxy field. Once an admin proxy is designated, they can continue to delegate admin proxy access to additional users. I believe each entity can give up to 10 individuals total to have access to the system. So, but I don't think we've really run into many issues with that. But you can go in and do that. Now this episode and intervention selection. So once you have your NPI list updated, we essentially run that against our baseline numbers to tell you, okay, well, what episodes are you eligible for based off of those NPIs that were submitted. So you can see here, this lists all, I think we're up to about like 50 some episodes. I can't remember the exact ones total, but you can see by line, it'll tell you what your volume is, and based off of your volume, are you eligible for it? So as a reminder, in each episode, you need a minimum of 11, and then in total, you need a minimum of 50 episodes within the baseline. And again, that's a composite based off of your list of NPIs, not necessarily each individual NPI meeting that threshold. So for those two MPIs that we entered in, I am scrolling down and I can see that based off of their baseline volume, we meet eligibility both for cardiac surgery and for glaucoma. So you can go in here and say, oh, I want to participate. Again, just because you're eligible doesn't mean you need to. So you can say, no, I don't want to, and press this update. If you are participating, you're required to select at least one intervention that you are going to focus on for that episode. So that's clinical care redesign, beneficiary care engagement, and care coordination or care transitions. You, of course, can select more than one. Many of our entities do. They're looking at all 3 different types of interventions. But again, a minimum of 1 of these are required. So again, for I'm going to say yes to both of these. Blank essentially means no. So you are not required to go in and select no, 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 no for all of these. Leave them blank. Essentially, that means no. Only we're looking at the ones that are designated as yes. So if I save this, I'll save successfully. I can go next. And the payment remission information. So this is essentially telling us where are we going to send the check if you guys are eligible for those shared savings. Ideally, this should match a W-9 that's ultimately going to be sent to UMS when we need to set you up as a vendor. The payment the payment organization name, again, that does not have to match your entity name. We have a lot of entities that are like use an abbreviation as a name, but they're using like our full LLC name for this organization. Please send us or let us know the address and everything like that, where to send it. And then this point of contact is essentially when we're sending the check, who is the attention to, who is it gonna be labeled to, so you can know. So all of this is put here. Again, you can edit that as needed. We're gonna save this. And then the next essentially is just the finalize. There's actually no button that you need to click here. We do give you the opportunity to download a PDF of all the information that you submitted for your own records, and then you return to the landing page. For PY2 entities that do not want to make any changes, you still are required to click through each of these 6 different buttons. Again, that kind of just tells us, hey, I'm looking at this, I've gone through the workflow, I'm good to go for next year. And then you can go again back to this landing page. That is what is required for your enrollment. You can at any time until the 1st go back in and change, for example, your NPI list. You can jump right into the entity information and change your NPI list, or you can jump right into the episode intervention and again say, okay, I actually do want to participate in this, and or I don't want to participate in the episode. All of those can be tweaked. Just remember to save and exit. I do want to point out 2 other areas. One is this jumping straight to admin proxy. So as I mentioned, it's quite common for multiple admin proxies to be designated within an entity, and that again, once one at least admin proxy has been granted access, that person can grant additional people one. So please go right into this, do admin proxy, and you can add an additional colleague to have access. You don't need to email the EQIP inbox. Again, this is done directly through here. If they already have CRS access, again, this is relatively quick process, but it may take 1 to 2 business days if they're brand new to CRS and we have to get them provisioned and everything into the system. I also want to point out you have your care partner dashboard, and this is essentially really used outside of enrollment, but it's a good way to just kind of see who's in the system. But it's a way to track once we get into the CMS vetting and the contracting phase, you can track the status of each of your care partners in those different steps before finalization. So again, just a kind of good way to do it. However, I do want to note, if you are no longer want to participate, or you started an entity and decided, oh, just kidding, I want to change that and combine with a different group or things like this, this is where the cancel enrollment field is. So you would actually go in and click this cancel enrollment. And we have a couple like making sure that that's what you'd like. So you would check this button and then close it if you, or save and close if you choose to cancel enrollment. And we will, obviously have you not participating for the next performance year. So just want to break that up. I'm going to go back home. And then the other one that can be very helpful is this view baseline data. And what that is going to do, it's going to show you a lot of the information that was already in that episode list. Again, your episode, category and your baseline volume, but it also is going to show you your statewide percentile rank, which, as you know, drives what the shared savings tier is. And then of course, it shows us total payments too. You'll note that the statewide percentile rank will be the same for all of your episodes, again, because the evaluation is done in aggregate. So that's sort of where your percentile rank comes from. So for these two, by participating in these two episodes, this entity is at the 57, almost 58 percentile. I believe that puts them in the mid tercile for shared savings. But again, you can kind of see information here. So I believe that walks through all of the steps. Are there any questions that I can help answer before I jump back into sort of like timeline for things? So let me switch back and mention a couple other things. Okay, so where we are here, we're in this enrollment process. Again, that September 1st deadline is what you want to make sure is marked on your calendar as the last date for enrollment. Again, we cannot add any other MPIs after that date because we quickly after the end of this or next month, we start the CMS vetting phase and contracting. So all of that is sort of done in the fall, and of course, we'll share some additional information about those next steps. And then just as an FYI, January 1st, of course, the start of this performance year, and then shortly after the start is when your preliminary target prices and baseline and all that full data is available within EQIP. And then for this year, for the PY3 year, incentive payments follow sort of the same schedule we've done before. So it's typically the third quarter after the end of the year. So again, for the calendar year 2024, payments would be in Q3 of 2025. Okay. And to summarize next steps. So new entities, really email us, start with this EQIP inbox, and we will tell you, do you need to do those forms for CRISP onboarding, or are we good to go to directly set up a lead care partner in EQIP? So we'll get you to the right places. PY2 entities that are wanting to continue enrollment for PY3, basically admin proxies, go ahead and log into EQIP, when your availability is, and you can edit your MPI list or walk through those steps to confirm your enrollment for next year. I finally do want to note that, as I mentioned, in the system, you can see your total volume by episode and your total payments. But if you would like a specific NPI or breakdown of volume and payments by NPI, we can take that request, but we just need it done via email to that EQIP inbox, and we will send you an Excel file if that helps with some of your decision-making process. I think that is all I have, so I will open it up to questions. And of course, I want to just mention that if anyone needs help or wants to have a conversation, about any of the numbers that they're seeing within it, please email the EQIP inbox, and we will set up some one-on-one time to meet with you guys to review the information.
Hey, Jessica, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Oh, hey, my name's Daniel. How are you? I think we correspond a lot to each other on the emails.
Yeah.
If you're doing well. Just about, I guess one question related to the enrollment. I am looking at our performance year 1 results, which I think September 30th is the last data points that's merged into the performance dashboard. So I guess we don't have the full data yet, but I am seeing 2 EQIP entities with savings, 1 without the savings. So I guess, are we allowed to? I guess we're allowed to renew the EQIP entity that with the savings that I'm seeing for performance year 1, but what happens if the savings continued in the year 2? Will we then suddenly have to dissolve it in the middle of the year 3? Just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, so I think Will can give a little bit more information on it. I will say for the time being, we are, since you mentioned we don't have full PY1 information in, the last quarter is likely going to be released at the end of this month. I think July 28th is the date, but that could potentially, push back a week just depending on like our quality assurance and everything that's needed with that data. But as of right now, we are letting everyone enroll. I don't believe our intention is to ever disenroll someone in the middle of the year. Will, do you want to speak a little bit to the just savings policy plan?
Sure. So, I think when we set up this policy, we did not consider carefully enough the timing of when we would have the data to do these assessments. We really don't want to, dissolve anyone in the middle of a year, barring some, really extreme program integrity problems. So we, as you mentioned, don't have the full year's worth of data in yet. Once we get that data in, we're going to be doing some analysis on it, and then we're going to revise the timing of the policy on the 2 consecutive years of DIS savings. So we will let you know what that policy looks like pretty soon, probably third quarter of this year. But again, we're not going to dissolve anyone in the middle of the year, right? So.
Thanks, Will. Thanks, Jessica.
Gave out the date for the release of the fourth quarter data of 7/28, and I would just strongly recommend. Jessica and I have had calls with a couple EQIP entity groups where it would really make sense to be thoughtful and not just put in the same thing you did before. And looking at, it might make sense to have more than one EQIP entity, even if you're a large system or something. And it might make a lot of sense too to do that, not only because it will help you break down, the groups and maybe do better financially, but also because I think then you can get the practitioners who are working on those bundles maybe to think about their bundles and maybe have them work together on them and do better. And then their data is their data, their savings. And having worked with doctors for over 25 years, I find them to be very competitive. And when you share data and numbers with them, they like to win. So I think that this is a really good opportunity now that we actually do have data, even though it's a little old, to really look at what you're doing and change it around. And maybe some of you who have one entity with lots of bundles should consider having a couple different entities by specialty or by bundle.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And so I can't reiterate that enough. If you're looking at an entity that has overall DIS savings, but you have, certain episodes that are being successful, we definitely encourage you to split up that entity.
And I just want to add on one comment about sort of eligibility and things like that with our policies. So way back when, for PY1 entities, when you enrolled, you were given a list of NPIs that were quote unquote on probation. And essentially what that meant is that they did not touch a single claim within the baseline period. You all should have already received an email with a list of NPIs that, in addition to not touching one in baseline, also did not touch a claim within performance year 1. They sort of got a freebie of continuing to participate in PY2 because of our data release schedule, but they would not be eligible to participate in PY3. Overall, I will say our number of that is super low. So, again, it's to ensure that all the providers that are enrolled in EQIP are actually participating in some manner with these episodes. So please keep that in mind. And again, that number should be very low, but if there's any questions, just reach out to us. I think I see a hand up.
Melanie.
Yes.
Yeah, this actually kind of builds on what Will was saying at the very beginning about the support that MedChi is giving to value-based care. So MHCC has a grant open, of which MedChi is the grantee, to help practices with practice transformation. I know Jean and I have mentioned this on previous calls, but we are graduating. Our first class just graduated, and we got great feedback. There are a lot of specialists in that program. So just to let everybody know, there are still slots open. It does help practices learn the foundational steps to be successful in value-based programs like EQIP. So thank you. You can reach out to Jean or myself at the commission. Thank you.
And actually, I'm glad you brought that up, Melanie, because we are actually helping, I think, about 10 practices from that first class to join MDPCP for the first time. And what's really cool about that is that, and some of them, one of them I think is going to try to go direct. A couple are going to other CTOs. Some are going to join the MedChi CTO. But the cool thing is that I don't think of those practices that any of them want to participate had they not taken the MHCC course, and we're using the modules directly from CMMI, and we're doing they get a direct assessment of their practice too. So it's really valuable. It's worth the time and energy. So I really would encourage, if you know any smaller practices or practices who haven't been participating in MDPCP or EQIP, we do have slots open for this upcoming year, and we'd love to have more people in it.
Yeah, and Jean, just to kind of reiterate your point, it is built on a program that CMS launched to help practices be successful, which was called TCPI, which had over 100,000 practices in nationwide. And we are utilizing the expertise that you've built through your CTO, which is helping people to be successful in MDPCP. So we're combining those two things. So it's a great program, and we'd love for more people to take advantage of it. We do still have more funds and spaces available. Thank you.
Can I ask one more question to you guys? I think I was just notified by one of our practices that they think they got the 5% AAA, you know, I forgot the exact acronym, AAPM bonus from performance year one. I don't think that's true, right? Because it's 2 years lagging, right? Okay, I just wanted to confirm.
Yeah, that might be. We've gotten some questions about that too. The standard timeline for that bonus, it is 2 years. So for performance year one, which was calendar year 2022, the AAPM bonus should be in calendar year 2024. So that may be something else.
And then
just to emphasize, you know, there are people in the state who are starting to get AAPM bonuses for their participation in 2021 in something like our EQIP program. So we just want to, you know, emphasize the payment is for 2021, you know, your payments for 22, 23 will come 2 years later.
And remember, on the AAPM, the schedule is such that that bonus changes. So, and this is memory, I don't want to mess it up, but I think 22 was 5, 23 was 3.5, and I can't remember what 24 is. But I could be wrong on those numbers, but it got changed when they extended it. Actually, I don't think 24 has been decided yet. I think that's the issue with that one.
And then I think last year I saw on their you know, the QPPCMS.gov website, the enrollees for the previous year were tagged with the, you know, the AAPM, you know, I forgot the QP participant tag, which I think indicates that they're in the, you know, the 5% AAPM bonus territory. I don't see that on any of the provider for performance year two. Is that just a little bit of delay on the admin side, or?
Sorry, are you saying you went to the CMS QPP lookup website?
Yeah, and then I looked up our performance year two providers who are in the year two of the program.
That's year two, 2023. Yeah.
Yes.
So the timing of the CMS QPP windows is a little complex. I'm pretty sure they do their first run in Q2 of the performance year. And so my guess is that has not updated yet, but will update soon. You know, we are working with CMMI to make sure they have the correct lists and that they update it in a timely fashion. So if you don't see that update in, you know, let's say another month, please reach out to us and we'll work with CMMI to get that resolved. There are 4 snapshots that they do on a rolling basis, and you only need to appear in one of them. And so we will, you know, if you don't see it in the next month, we'll get that resolved. And just reach out to us, please.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm told the first snapshot was just released. So if you wouldn't mind checking, and then if you don't see your participants on there, please send me and Jessica an email, and we'll get it. We'll reach out and work with CMS.
Yeah, I just checked it now. I don't see it yet.
Okay.
So I'll email
could
to
you that, yeah, with just the list of people that, yep.
Understood. Thanks, Will.
Do we have any other questions? Anybody else want to ask anything about enrollment, sign up, EQIP entities, APMs, anything else related to this? All right, so we'll get out an email with the schedule for the rest of the year for the meetings. My gut is we'll have a meeting in September, and then we'll figure out what we're doing for the rest of the year and send something out to everybody. We are updating the database of the signups, and I think we're got it pretty cleaned up. So if you didn't get an email for this meeting and you received it from somebody else, please let Olivia or Barbara know so we can add you to the list and make sure you're on there. And also, you should be getting an Outlook invite from me as well if you're on the list. So if you're not getting that, let us know that. We'll try to make sure we get that straight. And again, if you have a problem or need help, you can reach out to any of the three of us and we'll help you set up a meeting, and we can go through specific questions for you, or we can help a group. And the one final ask I'd have is a lot of you are involved with larger systems, but please mention this to your colleagues in the smaller practices. We want them to have the opportunity to, let's help everybody get into this. I think we've built something pretty cool here, and it's a pretty neat opportunity. I just want to make sure every practitioner in Maryland has the opportunity to take advantage of it. And maybe last but not least, typically in the fall, Will and Jessica and I will start working on what new bundles we want to add. So if you have ideas about that, you can hold them until September, but in September, October, we're going to want to start thinking about that for next year's submissions. So I think that's a roundup of what's happening on EQIP for the rest of the year, and great job going through the demo, Jessica. Anything else, Will, Jessica, for the good of the order?
Oh, hopefully.
All right. Well, everybody have a great weekend, and please get signed up.
Bye. Thanks, Jean.